and to argue based on the issue? Or do we follow the way of the world, which is to say, if they don't agree with you, they're of the devil, demonize them, to say anything you want to say about them, even if it's a point of slander, get them off the map, make sure that nobody wants to listen to them because they're such a horrible person that there couldn't be anything good coming out of them. It's a choice. And the choice we make with that makes a huge difference in whether we're following the ways of the God of Joshua and the God that Jesus showed us. Not in having to agree with them about the issue, because God gives us all a different perspective to come from, and all those perspectives are needed even when they're in conflict. But certainly in how we deal, and how we are, and how we treat, and how we talk about those who are different from us. Wow, all those choices. We do need a spiritual toolkit to deal with all those choices. And the good news is that we have one. It's not a magical thing. It's not something we've got to go out and earn. It's something God has already given us. We have a spiritual toolkit, spiritual tools that can help us whenever we are faced with these moments to decide. And we hear 4 of these tools talked about in the letter to the Ephesians that we read this morning. Paul talks about them as armor, which made a lot of sense in his time, since there were Roman soldiers walking around all over the place in armor. Maybe not so much sense in our time. When was the last time you saw someone walk down the streets of Washington Courthouse in armor? But we can talk about them in terms of tools, of a toolkit. And the first tool is truth. And the second is righteousness. And the third is peace. And the fourth tool is faith. And they can be used in all different sorts of situations. But when we use them to help us at those moments when we have to decide, when we have to make a choice of how we will be, or how we will act, or how we will think, or what we will do, when that comes, here's how we can use them. When facing a moment to decide, the first tool we need is a tool of truth. Truth meaning reality. Truth meaning exactly what is. Being able to face a moment when we have to make a decision and look at what really is. Not the stories we've woven around it, not the things we've made up about it, not the people we want to blame for it, not the tears we want to shed because it's not fair, but actually what is. So that when we face an illness and we have to make choices about what we do in that illness, we're able to say, what really is the situation? Or when we are in conflict with somebody, not to be so concerned about whose fault it is, but to be able to say, what is this conflict? What's going on here? Or when we were dissatisfied with a job, to be able to really look at what it is that's creating the dissatisfaction, to look at exactly what is without all the other stuff. That's what it means to take the tool of truth and to bring it to a moment of decision. And if we have been able to do that and look at what the reality is, then we're ready for the second tool, the tool of righteousness, which we have to be a bit careful about because of generations of layering that word with things that it never meant. When we tend to hear righteousness, we tend to immediately jump to the conclusion that there is an absolutely right way to do this, and I know it. And I have the righteous answer of what I should do in this situation. But that's not what righteousness means. At its core, righteousness has to do with right relationship. A right relationship between me and God. A right relationship between me and other people. A right relationship between me and creation. A right relationship between the things that crop up, that create decision-making moments in our lives. One of the best prayers I know to deal with this kind of right relationship to what really is called the Serenity Prayer. Especially the first couple of parts of that prayer where it talks about being able to recognize and accept what we cannot change, what's not in our power to change about this situation that is. Because when we recognize what's not in our power to change about the truth of what is, then the choice is that we have to be able to accept that we have no power over. And the second part of that prayer, though, says, for those things that we do have power to change, to be able to change them with God's help. And so when we face the truth of what is and bring to it this relationship of saying, this is my power, then that is a choice to change. And so the right relationship tool in making a decision has a lot to do with whether it's mine or not mine. Some circuses and monkeys are not ours, and we simply have to accept that. But some are, and we have to deal with it. And so to bring the tool of right relationship to the moments of decision is to understand how we are in relationship to the truth of what it is. And if we've done that, and been able to make our choice, whether it's about accepting or whether it's about changing, then the other two tools, the tool of peace and the tool of faith, come in as our very good friends. I don't know about you, but at times in my life when I've struggled with a decision, at the moment I really have kind of figured out what's going on, and I've made a choice about where I need to be in that. If I've made a good choice, I usually feel a sense of peace about it. There may be all sorts of things going on out there that aren't very peaceful at all, but I feel a sense of peace about it. And if, as I live into that choice, I remember that God has given me that sense of inner peace as a guide, it does serve as a guide. Because as soon as I start trying to live into the struggle with living into that choice and find that I'm losing that inner peace, I can just about bet that somewhere along the line I've gotten off the track. And God's trying to call me back. The tool of peace. And the tool of faith, well, it's the tool that carries us through it all. The trust and the power and the presence of God. That no matter where we are in the process, and even when we make the wrong choices, that God has the power to get us to where we need to be. To bring us from the desert to the promised land. In flesh and blood. To give us some way to get there. So 4 tools in our toolkit for making many important decisions in our lives. The tool of truth. The tool of right relationship. The tool of peace. The tool of faith. May you always keep these tools near to your heart and embedded in your mind, so that when you face your own moments of decision,